everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is your host, Hasty Kiamehr. Today I have Kevin Boucher with me. He is a life coach. He is also a husband, a father of six, an entrepreneur, a leader, a small business owner, successful principal broker, nationally recognized a mortgage broker, nominated as a CMP mortgage broker of year 2010. He's a sales and business trainer, and now he's a life coach specializing in well-being and leadership high performance. Hi, Kevin. How are you?
I'm very well, Hasty. Thank you very much for inviting me to your channel. This is very exciting.
Thank you for taking the time and doing this. I'm sure our audience would be glad to get a lot of information from you. But to just get started, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. In that introduction, those are the way that you sort of described are all things that I've done. Some of those things I'm not currently doing, but they do make up who I've been. Listen, I'm a small town guy from Northern Ontario. I've had a variety of careers. I've had a lot of sort of work experience. I've everything from working on the running trades, being a conductor on the railroad when I had my first job out of after I spent about 3 weeks at university, to running one of the biggest car dealerships in the country as a general manager. Having 160 employees and 14 department managers reporting to me. And then going on to the mortgage industry, where I was a sort of a top producer, or considered a top producer at a national brokerage, and then starting my own brokerage, building teams, building a bunch of really, really successful and amazing people. So I've had the opportunity to mentor. I've had the opportunity to work with people, in a lot of different ways, and sort of lead. So when you asked me to write, some accomplishments, I sort of draw a little bit of a blank, but that sort of tells you a little bit about me.
We can all just from that, you have accomplished a lot, so that's not a part that you have to worry about. You have accomplished so much in life and have all done that, and now you are a coach. But why did you decide to become a coach?
It's a great question, and I've thought about this a lot. First of all, I was introduced to coaching 5 or 6 years ago, when I hired my own coach to work through some personal issues that I was having with how just weird things, like how money related to me, and what it meant to me and stuff like that. And back then I got a lot out of it. And I really enjoyed the partnership of coaching, and which was sort of different because I've had the opportunity to mentor salespeople, to train salespeople, to advise business owners, to advise other businesses, to advise my clients, to really, in the mortgage business, it was help my agents become really effective agents so that they could be as productive as they wanted to be. And then also help my clients build wealth and set themselves up, in a very positive way. For me, my entire focus was always on the people. It was never on the money, which is why I hired a coach to sort of help me, deal with that aspect of it and work through some of those things. But along the way, what I found was the thing that really sort of resonated with me was that ability to work with people, that ability to, I've always been very, very interested in human behavior, and especially why can somebody succeed at such high levels when other people seem to struggle with, just day-to-day existence, right? And so, I've probably spent the last 35 years, or I hate to say it, almost 40 years of my life now, working on personal development, self-development, and how that all related and how I could perform at a higher level. And so it seemed like sort of the natural progression, right? I personally was going through a bit of a transition. Had a business that was winding down in 2019. Wanted to kind of get out of that part of the business. I didn't enjoy it anymore. That was being a principal broker. It wasn't something that I enjoyed. So I, in consultation with a really good friend, somebody who's a lifelong friend, and somebody I respect, deeply, we decided that I would step aside and she would sort of take over and build something that was really extraordinary. And so at that time, though I got exactly what I wanted, I don't want to do this anymore. I kind of had a situation where I was a little bit lost. I had gone from running and being involved in the day-to-day operations of something for such a long time to not knowing where I fit. And so when I took a step back, the first thing I did was I hired a coach. And after one session, what I learned was I wanted to be a coach, right? I needed to sort of be a coach because, and not for anything that it did, that fixed me, but just the feeling it had that there was answers to questions out there that I could find myself. And that really kind of inspired me. So I think that's the thing that led me to, wanting to formalize it and become a coach.
That is so fantastic. What I love about that is that it was such a natural thing for you. It wasn't so, let me see how else I can make money. You were just like, I have this experience and I'm able to help another person to get what I am. And also, what I love about that story is the fact that you actually, when you realize, okay, brokering is not the thing, you didn't just like, okay, that's it. Retirement starts, you're like, okay, let's find the next passion. And your next passion was to help people to find their passion, which is so amazing and fantastic. But what does a coach do for someone, and why should someone actually invest in a coach?
Yeah, so great question. So really, coaching in its truest sense and its truest form is a partnership, right? So you partner with a coach who sort of keeps you accountable, shares ideas, creates safe space, right? So the whole idea behind coaching is to create a place where judgment really doesn't exist, right? There is no such thing as right or wrong. There's no such thing as the right answers. Because the truth of the matter is, and I think this is really neat, is that the answers to all people's problems are really within them, right? Like, and I can sort of, I'll speak to this by, sort of explaining. So when I was transitioning from, being a broker owner of my previous brokerage to, I didn't really know where I fit because, the partner that I took on, somebody I've known for 25 years. She worked for me in the car business and then became my partner. I've known her for a long time, trust her implicitly. And, so the business that we, that she runs, we own, I'm a partner in, I'm a minority partner in, is called The Mortgage Coach. And she's done such an amazing job with The Mortgage Coach that it gave me the freedom to just, to sort of, I had no responsibilities, right? I had past clients, which I, wanted to stay in contact with and stuff. But I didn't have any role within the brokerage itself. And so I didn't know where I belonged, right? So in trying to find myself, the one thing when I started to, go down this coaching path and started to, so I signed up with a coaching program through a company called IPEC, which stands for the Institute of Professional Excellence in Coaching. And so as I was taking this journey, what I realized was that a lot of the stuff that I had studied was very true, but I really wasn't living my reality, right? I knew the things to say, but I wasn't really being that person. And so just a personal sort of anecdote. So when I started coaching, one of the things that I struggled with was weight, right? I had, in September of 1999, I was 345 pounds. I lost a bunch of weight, then gained some weight back and lost a bunch of weight, but I really couldn't get on top of that sort of idea and master that part of it. And when I started to be a coach, one of the things that we talk about at IPEC is to walk your talk. And so what I learned was I really wasn't walking my talk. And so what I did was I sat down and I sort of redesigned my self-image around which I was able to detach some old thoughts and old feelings. And in less than 11 months, I lost 75 pounds, and really sort of transformed everything about myself, right? So earlier you said something like it wasn't about money. And for me, money never came into the conversation or equation. For me, my thought was, if I can help people see in them what I was able to see in myself through the coaching journey, then, that would be a fulfilling life, right? That would be a fulfilling way to continue my path down, or my journey down this path that we call life. I don't know if
Wow.
that answered your question, but
That's fantastic. No, it did. So in your opinion, right, if someone's looking for a coach, who is that person? Who needs the coach? How does someone know if they need a coach?
Yeah, so it's a great question, right? Because coaching is really a help modality, right? So it's one of those, it's like and when we say help modality, we're talking about whether it's therapy, whether it's it's a consultant, it's whatever. There's a bunch of different things, and so where coaching is different is we really partner with the client to move the action forward, right? Is we sort of figure out, well, a lot of people, you'll hear people say, well, I'm stuck, right, or I'm blocked. It sort of means that their old way of thinking is not getting them the results that they want. And so what a coach does is a coach will partner with that person to look at things a different way, to just have a different perspective, right? To ask good questions, to listen intensely. So your question was, who needs a coach or who could use a coach? Everybody could, like, literally, I don't know that there's a person who walks who doesn't need a coach. Whether you're a CEO in a Fortune 500 company who has to deal with the stresses of day-to-day existence and whether or not to lay off 2,000 or 3,000 people, to a single mom at home who's dealing with the ideas of how to put food on the table and how to take care of their kids, whether or not you need a coach, you can afford a coach, all of those things. The question is, if you're not getting the results that you want, or if you feel stress and stress is sort of guiding your life, then absolutely, those are things that a coach will help work through with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it very much is a partnership, and it's like you can't. You have to be ready to step into that partnership, to be held accountable, and that's when coaching works best.
Okay. To me, it sounds like almost like a coach is like a blank canvas, and then when you're painting, it will tell you like, okay, this paint, maybe you move it here, maybe there, so you can actually create that picture that you need at that moment, correct?
Yeah, sort of. I like the blank canvas approach, because really what we tend to be is we tend to be a mirror, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a client will, so for example, I had an interaction with somebody who said to me, so we were talking about mortgage volume and stuff. And so that person said to me, well, it's not like I have the capacity to do $300 million or $30 million a year in mortgage volume. And so I said, interesting. I said, so how much mortgage volume did you do in the last 30 days? And they said, well, 3 million. And I said, okay, so if you extrapolate 3 million over 12 months, that's 36 million. So what you're telling me is you do have the capacity to do 30 million. You just, don't have the capacity to do 30 million now. And it was interesting because you could see the energy shift going from believing this thought that I don't have the capacity and I don't have the knowledge and I don't know how, to something that was like, oh, wait, I'm living this reality already. So then it changes, right? It changes. And so what did I do? I just asked the question, right? But it was the person being asked the question that got to look at that reality and say, oh, wait, right. It's like you asking me about my accomplishments. Well, I really don't have any accomplishments, right? Except running a big car dealership, owning a couple of businesses by the time I'm 21, all of those things. It's because the way we subjectively look at what we do is completely different than what the reality can be. Does that make sense?
It does. It really does. Yeah, no, it 100% does. And it's very interesting. A mirror, I guess everybody needs that mirror because self-talk in your head can cause you to say, oh, okay, well, I can't do it. And then you need that mirror to say, no, hear what you have done. So yes, you can do it. That's
Well, and just to your point, the reason why that mirror is so valuable is when you look in a mirror yourself, what you see is what you already conceive and perceive of yourself, right? If a coach becomes a mirror, what you see is a space of non-judgment, right? So when you look in the mirror and you see yourself, you're constantly judging yourself, right?
yeah,
But when a coach sees you, there is no judgment, right?
exactly.
Is because we're not invested in any type of outcome. We're invested in being there for the client and creating space for the client to just be, right? And so it's through that sort of reflection where there's non-judgment that the client makes the breakthroughs, that has the epiphanies, the aha moments, those types of things, which are so magical, right? Because it changes and shifts the way that they think about themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a saying that says if you change the way you look at the world, then the world you look at changes, right? And so that's one of the
Exactly.
things that we're able to do for clients is we're able to show them a different perspective.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, that's true. Okay, but at what point of someone's career they should hire a coach? Is that like the beginning? Is that the like where should if you're starting a career, whatever that is, when should we be thinking about a coach?
Yeah. So the question isn't, should I have a coach? Should I not have a coach? The question has to be for the individual. Am I getting the results that I want or not? Right? Am
Mhm.
I living the life that I want to live, or am I living the life that has been foisted upon me by, old thinking and old thoughts? Right. And that's really what it's about. Like one of the really neat things about the mortgage coach for me is because I'm not involved in the day-to-day operations. What we do is we partner with agents and work with our agents to try to improve where they are in their careers. So I work with new agents, I work with experienced agents, I work with all kinds of agents at different levels. And the neat thing is we very seldom talk about mortgages, right? We talk
Mhm.
about how they think about mortgage, how they think about themselves, how they think about their capabilities, what their dreams are, what their desires are, what's really, really, really at the core of what you're doing and why you're doing it, right? And so to answer your question, it really doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if you're at, you see or you hear about these high performance coaches that are in an investment house. If you ever watch the show Billions, right? I mean, they have a high performance coach in season one. That's sort of how she's introduced. And so these people who are super high achievers, but they still doubt themselves. They still have
Mhm.
self-doubt, right? They still have to work through this. So whether you're brand new in an industry, whether you're going through transitions, whether you're trying to deal with wellness and health issues, or you've been struggling to sort of achieve results, that's what a coach does. A coach, like professional athletes, they all have coaches, right?
Mhm.
And professional, anybody who performs likely has a coach, has
Mhm.
somebody who can hone their skills or help them hone their skills and become their very best version of themselves. And that's really the question, right? So the question isn't who needs it and at what stage. It's, are you getting the results you want? And if not, then maybe this is something that you should take a look at and investigate.
Okay. All right. And how do you actually help the client to achieve their goal? I mean, you mentioned that you basically, if they're doubting, you clear their mind of like the questions you ask, but how do you help them to achieve their goal as a coach?
Yeah, it's a great question. So really, what the goal is almost secondary.
Hmm.
And that sounds sort of counterintuitive. And the reason I say that the goal is secondary is because the goal is an outcome, right? So I want this outcome. So I want to be able to earn X amount of dollars. Great. Um, we don't talk about earning X amount of dollars. We talk about the person you have to become capable of earning that money, right? And so what's standing in your way? What are some of your thoughts, right? Because what happens is a lot of people, when they set a goal, whatever that goal is, then, they set the goal and then they start thinking, oh, I'm not really capable of that goal, right? It's that internal kind of self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
And then they sort of talk themselves out of it. And a lot of people, the reason that happens is because all they're doing is they're living an old program, right? They're using old thoughts and they're using things based on the past and all of that stuff. So what we try to do is, first of all, we make sure that, we ask the question, is that really what you want? Right? Or is that something that somebody told you should have? Right? And so what we find is that, people do things, there's sort of a continuum, right? So people don't make decisions. I'm not doing this. And then people make decisions because I have to do this, right? And then they make decisions because I should do this.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not until they make a choice and say, I want to do this, that they start to feel free and they start to move the energy forward and move their consciousness to a much higher level of consciousness, right? So, so a lot of what we do at one of the things that we're trained with at IPEC, and what sets IPEC apart from most other coaching training places or centers, is we do something called core coaching, core energy coaching. And so what we look at is we look at the core of where you are. Right? It's in the heart. It's in the heart of energy. So core is heart. It's Latin for heart, and it stands for heart. And the E piece is energy. So we look at your energy presentation and the type of energy that you're bringing to a particular situation, a particular, you have to call a realtor, and you're nervous about making that phone call. And because you've got all of these ideas that I can't call a realtor, I can't call a referral source, I can't call a client because there's bad news. Well, how true is that, right? Is there really news? Like, are you just delivering that thing? But you set all of these, so all of this fear starts to bubble up inside of you, and it makes you nervous and anxious and stuff. That's your energy. That's a little bit out of whack. And so what a coach will do is a coach will sort of partner with you to find out if what you're feeling is actually real, or if it's something that's based on some past event that happened, or some gremlin message that exists. Right? That somebody who's telling you can't, you're not good enough. Those sort of things.
So you basically help them to remove all those the blocks that is in front of them, that it's either created by themselves or society or family or whatever. And then when those are removed, they automatically will achieve whatever they need to achieve. Just not specifically the goal, but the blockers of what is not getting them to that goal, correct?
Yeah. Almost 100%. The only thing that I would say is it's not automatic, but the whole idea is to move further down the continuum towards that goal, right? Because when you start to make a goal that you feel like, oh, that's not possible for me, well, then, the thought is, I want to have this goal. The feeling that you have in your body, in your heart, is it's not possible. And when those two things are out of alignment, then that's where the block happens, right? Then there's conflict between your head and your heart. And so once you get your head and your heart in alignment, then things don't happen automatically, but things happen, in a much more sustainable way, right? It's like, I'll give you an example. So for me, and I'll just use a personal example. So for me, one of my problems has always been with weight was I could lose weight. It wasn't hard for me to lose weight, but what invariably happened was I always gained the weight back. And so one of the things I learned something about myself from childhood. And I had this attachment to this idea that was planted in my head by my father, like 45 years ago. But that always was sort of there. And so I lived my entire existence as this fat guy who was capable of doing these things. When I detached myself from being that fat guy who was capable of doing these things, and I redesigned what my self-image was, I became a fit man who was capable of doing other things. And as soon as I detached from, that sort of fat guy, it almost opened up for me to say, well, I never have to worry about weight again, right? That never has to be the thing that I have to think about every single day and, judge myself about, or be bitter about, or be angry about. And so I look at it, how it affected me and how it impacted me. And so that's how I look at my clients, right? Like, my coach didn't do anything for me. They didn't, they didn't all they did was they asked the right questions so that I could search my mind and find out what the answer to my question was. And once I asked myself the right question, then it gave me a direction that I could move in that literally transformed my life. And has to when I say transform my life, I was diabetic, I was hypertensive, I needed to have my knees replaced. I was going to, you know, have heart issues. And all of those things I managed to cure, right? So I used coaching and mindset to cure a chronic disease, right? Diabetes. I'm no longer on any type of medication. Hypertension. I'm no longer on any type of medication. I've been able to postpone having my knees done for at least a decade. So, like, you know, so those are real, tangible differences. And that's what coaching sort of led me to. My coach didn't do that for me, right? I did the work, but the coach helped me with the direction of the work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's just so fantastic. Yeah. But there is different careers, and each career has its own specific things that you need to know about in order to succeed. So do you think if someone is looking for a coach to succeed in their career, should they find a coach that was in that career themselves? For instance, you were a broker. So if a broker needs a coach, should find someone that is a coach now but was a broker. So it will allow them, or it just doesn't matter?
So I think the thing that matters more than that is we all bring experiences, right? Yes, it's true. I was a broker. Absolutely. I was a mortgage agent at one point. I was a salesman. I sold timeshare. I was a project manager in a timeshare at a timeshare track. I was the general manager of a big Ford dealership. So you know, what do I bring to coaching? Well, I bring some level of expertise in well-being. You know, my weight loss story, my health story. I bring some business leadership. I'm an entrepreneur. I've started 4 or 5 businesses from scratch. You know, so I think everybody has their own. There's a lot of niches in coaching, right? But when you go through a coaching program, you become a master generalist. Is what it is, and then you'll find, you know, what really sort of you're passionate about, and you'll start to navigate into what you're really kind of passionate about. So, you know, so the answer to your question is the most important part of the coaching dynamic is to find somebody that you can resonate with, right? Find somebody that you feel comfortable with, that you have a certain level of comfort with, because especially when you're dealing with you know, coaches from IPEC who are CPC certified, who, you know, like for my and myself, I actually wrote an exam yesterday, and I'm going to announce this to you into the world. So there's a coaching federation, which is the gold standard of coaching federations, and you follow sort of their guidelines, and that gives you credibility in the industry. So I had been able to write my exam as an ACC, which is an associate certified coach. You need a certain number of hours of coaching. You need a certain amount of education. I wrote that exam yesterday and passed. So woo for me. That's, I mean, I think that's important because there's a lot of people out there, you know, on the internet who put themselves out there as a coach and a life coach and this and that, who don't really have a lot of experience or a lot of credential behind them. For me, credential was really important, and to be, and that was my own thing, right? So, I guess to answer your question in a much less succinct way, really it's the relationship you have and the feeling and the energy that is between you and the coach. The client and the coach is, you know, if you think that person can help move you forward, then it doesn't matter that, you know, like I could coach somebody who designs IT, right? I don't know anything about IT, but I know things about people. And I know things about how people achieve, and I know I know how to ask questions, and I know how to listen very intently and deeply. So, you know, it's really what you're comfortable with, right? What the individual client is seeking, and what your comfort level is with the coach that you hire.
So basically, what you mentioned before, it's like a partnership relationship. You just have to find that correct relationship for you.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Very,
Okay.
very much. I can't stress this enough that it is absolutely a partnership, right? And it
Okay.
has to be a partnership.
Hmm. Okay. Right now, you just mentioned that, there are people out there that they said they're a coach, but they just don't have what they need to have to back them up. How do you find the right coach? How do you make sure that it's someone is the right coach with the right experience?
Yeah, that it's a great question. Um, Really, it's interview people, right? How do you
Mhm.
find the right mortgage broker? You interview them, right? Like, how do you find the right any relationship that you have? You have to interact in that relationship, and you get a feeling for them. You get a
Mhm.
feel for their energy. You're like, do I think I can get along with this person? Is this sort of the right thing? And listen, I don't mean to suggest that credentialing is the beginning and end of everything, right? I don't think that that's necessarily the case. Um, but if you're going to make an investment, you want to know that this person has at least done the work, right? You want
Mhm.
to know that they've gone through the avenues necessary to become a coach. I have encountered people in my life who have no certifications whatsoever, who have been phenomenal mentors for me. They have contributed immense things to my life. So it's not about what letters are behind their name necessarily. It's really how much care do they take in helping to be my partner in solving these questions and problems,
Mhm.
right? So I think that though credentialing is not the be all and end all, for me, it was one of those things that was really important so that I didn't walk around feeling like an imposter, right? Because we all have that imposter syndrome.
True. So, what are the biggest challenges that you see in your clients that are facing that stops them from like success, I guess?
Yeah. Like everybody has their own challenges, but really it comes down to stress, right? It comes
Mhm.
down to how they deal with stress. It comes down to how they handle stress, because everybody has stress, and there's stress in their daily lives, especially in the current economic climate, and all the things that are going on, and high inflation, and war in Europe, and all kinds of craziness that happens in the world. Really, it's how stress manifests in them, right?
Mhm.
Because if you don't handle stress well, stress can cause all kinds of diseases, right? Like I think it's honestly one of the things that was able to sort of propel me forward in this last part of my journey, and to be able to become medication free and all of those things is because I really started to learn how to deal with stress better. I really started to learn how to become more calm. And so, if you're asking about what's something that everybody has in common, stress, right?
Okay.
From whatever source it is. And it's their interaction with stress, and how they can learn to move past the stress.
What does a typical coaching session look like, I guess? Like, what should someone expect for it to be? Like, is that a questionnaire? How does it look like?
Yeah, it's a great question, because there's a lot of different coaching methods out there, right? There's some coaches that have a pre-described, okay, so we're going to work on this in this session, and then we're going to work on this, and here's my program, and this is what it is, and then we're going to give you access to the vault, where you have a bunch of PDFs, and you can do all of that stuff. Um, to me, you can call that coaching, I guess, but it's certainly a different form of coaching. So when how we're trained with IPEC and to be ICF credentialed is that so the difference between coaching and having a conversation is a coaching session will have an outcome, right? And so typically, the way a coaching session starts is I would ask, so Hasty, what do you want to work on in today's session? And then I
Mhm.
would find out, a goal for that session. And then I'd find out why is it important for you to achieve that goal? And then we would start by asking questions, what do you need to overcome in order, what do you think is standing in your way, or what do you need to overcome in order for you to have that goal? And then just listen, right? And sometimes it's as simple as just creating a safe space for somebody to just be, right?
Mhm.
Because you have a relationship with a friend, and we all have these relationships. And when you have those sort of conversations, you're being judged. You just
Yeah.
know, this is, they're going to say something snide and I think the most important part is, in order to remove some of that sort of catabolic energy, which catabolic energy for our purposes is a tearing down sort of force, and it's a sort of associated with low levels of consciousness.
Mhm.
But in order to clear some of that, the idea is you have to create a space that's safe, where there is no judgment. Like, I am not here to decide whether it's right or wrong. I'm not here to decide or even help you decide whether your goal is achievable or not. What I'm here to do is I'm here to help you remove whatever blocks you have in order to achieve that goal, right?
Mhm.
I'm not here in judgment of whether you should or shouldn't leave your husband. Not my thing, right?
Mhm.
I don't have a place there. Where I have a place is to clear whatever energy exists, whatever's holding you back and whatever's forcing you to see things a particular way, one way or the other. And that's really what again, I can't stress enough, it is a partnership, right?
Mhm.
And then part of the partnership is my role as a coach is to help hold you accountable, right?
Mhm.
If you want this change, if this is what you actually want, then here's the accountability necessary for you to do that, right? And I'll check
Mhm.
in with you. I'll email you, I'll call you, whatever we decide is an effective way for you to be held to account. That it's not me, different from a sports coach, where a sports coach, if you're a hockey player and you're not doing what the coach wants you to do, he just sits you on the bench. That's not what coaching is for us, right?
Yeah.
It's There's no bench to sit on, right? So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
so it's a very kind of organic relationship it's mindful, right?
Mhm.
And so that's really what coaching does, is it adds mindfulness to somebody's life and less mindlessness, right?
Mhm. Okay. Okay. Um, so what is the difference between group coaching and one-on-one coaching? Which one do you recommend? Because it's both of them are out there, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I recommend coaching full stop. That's whether it's in a group. The best thing about a group coaching is there's a group dynamic, right? So there can be, a particular organization has a particular energy around it, and they want to sort of raise their consciousness. You could do that through group coaching, right? And then you get buy-in from an entire organization, and then people start to move forward and start to approach things differently. They have they have a similar language around what's happening, right? So everybody can understand sort of what's going on, and that works really well as long as everybody has a similar goal, right? So, an example. So, an IT company has a project that they have to achieve, and they're having some issues around it, and the team of 5 or 6 people, feels that they want to bring in a coach to do that. Well, then the coach will help them understand some of the blocks that they're having and get them to work better by raising the consciousness of the group, right? It's effective. It can be cost effective, like rather than one-on-one coaching for some people can be different. And then one-on-one coaching, we're working with the individual, right?
Mhm.
We're talking to you. Very much we are present for you. That's what we're here to do. We're here to talk simply to you and to help you move you forward, not
Mhm.
necessarily the group. So that, with a group dynamic, the whole group sort of moves because they have a desired outcome. In one-on-one coaching, that individual, regardless of what space they're in the group. So, let's just say hypothetically, those 5 or 6 people that are in that IT group that we're working with to sort of move their agenda forward wants to coach one-on-one because one of the people in the group is having some issues at home, right? Or issues with a sick parent, or anything else that's causing stress. So you could certainly do group coaching to move that forward, but then you could also do one-on-one coaching to sort of deal with some of the other stressors that you're experiencing in a personal capacity that are completely unrelated to the group necessarily.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
It does. Um, so I feel like both of them would benefit you if you're in both. because as an individual, you have to fix stuff, but also having that group energy would allow you to kind of grow even further. Would you say that?
Absolutely. Again, right? It's a partnership. So the coach can partner with the group and help move things forward. The coach can partner with the individual, help move things forward. Those two things are not mutually exclusive, right? And they don't exist in a vacuum. You know, one of the opportunities that I've had is to work with our mortgage coach, some of our mortgage coach agents. And again, right, most of the work that I do has very little to do with mortgages. It has to do with working with people, because let's face it, if you're feeling stress in your life, then the performance that you're having at your work is impacted, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, for whatever reason, like, you know, because you can't get stuff done because you've got a lot of stress at home, because you've got sick parents, because you've got, you know, kid dynamics, because you have a particular self-image. So by clearing some of that energy, it puts you in a position where you could then show up to work in a much more effective way, right? And so sometimes, you know, the outcome is, so a mortgage agent, for example, I want to do more volume because I want to help more people. Great, but I don't feel like I'm worthy. Okay. So the problem isn't that you don't know how to set a goal to do more volume. The problem is that you don't think you're worthy. So let's deal with that thought of not being worthy, and let's work through that so that clears that energy, so then you can go and have the outcome that you're looking for. That sort of makes sense?
It does. It does, yes. So basically you have to fix within before you can fix whatever is outside to needs to be fixed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's an old saying, right? I read it in Think and Grow Rich, and it says, if you think you can, or if you think you can't, you're probably right. Right. Okay. So that's, you know, and really that's the essence of what we do, right? Is that, you know, we ask people, like, is this true? Like, you know, you say you're not worthy. Is that true? And how true is that for you? And what makes that true for you? And then we examine the underlying thoughts and where that might have come from. And, you know, there's different methods and ways and tools and things, right? That we can implement in order to, you know, sometimes it's as simple as writing stuff down in a journal. Sometimes it's you know, through meditation. Sometimes it's just through letting people just vent and be, right? Because they don't have an opportunity to just vent in a place that is absolutely judgment-free, right? Because everybody walks around being judged all day, and so they judge themselves. And when you come into a space that's absolutely judgment-free, then you feel the energy and the ability to just be. And that will always get to the essence, to the core of who you are as a person, and will help you move the action forward.
Okay. All right. And there are people out there who are skeptical about coaching and everything. What is your advice for someone who's skeptical about just coaching, hiring coach, and all that?
Yeah, you know, listen, nothing has value until you compare it to something, right? And so the question becomes: are you getting the outcomes you want? Are you getting the results? Are you happy? Are you living the best life? Are you living the life of your dreams? Right? And if you can answer no to those things, but you say, well, it's not, a coach is not going to help, or this is not going to help, or that's not going to help. Here's what I know: if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting, right? And isn't insanity doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results? And so if you find something in your life that's simply not working for you, open your mind, right? Like, accept the fact that, because this idea that I know better, all that is it's rooted in judgment, right? Because I know that's right or wrong, right? So if somebody's skeptical, listen, there are people who, if you come to coaching without an open mind, your results are going to be hampered. And as soon as you open up your mind, then then you're on the path to figuring out what's really going on, and figuring out what it takes for you to live your best life, right? Because the truth of the matter is, Hasty, I don't have any answers for people, right? All I have is questions. They have the answers inside of themselves. No difference than, you know, I spent my life believing that I was this fat guy persona, and so I lived a life as a fat guy. Right. And I don't say that because I'm being harsh or hard on myself. It's just true. Right. That's just the reality. And when I was able to open up my mind to that truth, and then I asked myself, well, how true is that for me? that I have to be that way. And when I realized I didn't have to, well, then I was able to detach from something I didn't feel like I had to be, and I could be whatever I wanted to be, right? And so the freedom in that is mind altering, life altering, right? I added 15 years of useful life to my to me, right? Like my doctor has said that to me. Those words, you just added 15 years of life. What's that worth? And so the only way I got there was I opened up my mind enough to say, what is truth? Right? What is true for me? What is the reality that I'm living? Like how does that work? And so that's really the first step, right? There's all kinds of cynics, there's all kinds of skeptics. I get it. I understand, right? It's not magic. It's not. It's work. It's hard work. The work I did last year, hard work, right?
Yeah.
Working on yourself, the hardest work you'll ever do. Trust me. But it's in your own control. So when you have it inside your own control and you don't feel like you're living in the effect of your life, but you're actually living in the cause of your life, right? That's the difference. That's what makes the difference. And so, for all the skeptics, don't knock until you try it. That would be my advice, right? And if you do try it, bring an open mind, right? Bring an open mind and an open heart, and understand that if you have all the answers, you'd be living the life of your dreams. And if you're not living the life of your dreams, then maybe you don't have all the answers.
True. I guess what they say is success doesn't come from a comfort zone. Like you can't expect to come in to be comfortable. You have to get really uncomfortable, and then you'll find comfort in that, I guess.
Right.
And what is the misconception about coaching?
That it's some form of magic, right? That it's automatic, and that it's all about the coach to get the results. Not true, right? Not true. We're a mirror. That's what we are, right? We're a mirror that lets you look deeper into your soul, deeper into yourself, asks you how true that is, right? Asks you if all of that old programming, right? The programming you've had for your entire life, the programming that is in your subconscious mind, and it has been there because these are all your habits, right? I mean, why do you do the things you do? Because it's habit. You don't think about it, right? Somebody who's had a problem, with smoking or overeating, they don't do it because they're thinking, I want to overeat. That's all I want to do. I can tell you that's not what happens, right? But what happens is there's a stressor, it's triggered, and their habit is, I'm going to go to the fridge and find food, right? And that, not because they're thinking about it, but because that's happening unconsciously, because those are the habits that we have created. And so, and so it's examining that and looking into yourself that really offers the solutions, right? So when you tell somebody, well, what are you going to do for me? Well, I'm going to help you see inside of yourself and, ask you questions. Well, and I'm paying you money for that? Well, yes, right? Because you're not asking yourself those questions, because you bring judgment to it, right? Because listen, I've been like this for 35, for 40, for 50 years. It took me 50 years to get here, right? Why are you telling me that's wrong? I'm not telling you that's wrong. You're telling me you're not getting the results you want, right? Okay. So if what you're getting is not something that you want, let's try something different. And that's the something different. But it has nothing to do with my ability to have answers to your questions. The only person who can answer, the only person who could figure out where I got triggered and why I started down the path of having this self-image of being this fat person who, that was me. I came up with the answer to that. I was like, holy crap, I remember this happening. And so when I thought about that, I thought, well, why is his opinion going to be the thing that, is my reality for the rest of my life? Does that have to be? Of course it doesn't. And when I did that, I was able to do the work. It was the coach who asked me the question. Where did this come from? Where did this thought come from? Yeah. And I'm like, well, geez, I don't know. But I never asked myself that question. Yeah. And that's what a coach does. And I hope that sort of makes sense. It's a very long-winded answer to something that seems like a simple question, but it's...
No, it's perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. This was a great interview, and you have answered so many questions. I think that will help a lot of people to figure out what they need and how get a coach and why they need a coach and everything. But how can someone get in touch with you specifically?
Well, I have, I have a website, and it's www.kevinbouchercoaching.com. I have a cell phone. It's 289-380-0797. And you can email me at kevin@kevinbouchercoaching.com. And, I look forward to having a chat.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming to my channel and doing this. Thank you for your time. And please, if anyone has a question, I will put Kevin's information down bottom. Please feel free to contact him. We will see you next time. Thank you for your time again, Kevin.
Hasty, thank you very much. And I just, from, on a personal note, I am listen, I'm thrilled that you gave me the opportunity to come on your channel. I think what you're doing is amazing. It actually inspires me to, to start doing more of this stuff. And so it's incredible. You have been an inspiration, and thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. This means a lot to me. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Have a good day.
You too.